Good evening and welcome. You're tuned into the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness. I'm your host, Dave Schrader. We've got an interesting show to start with. We are in a weird point in our history. There is a lot of darkness in the world around us. And I know you tune into these shows to kind of get away from that, to escape, to let your mind wander to other places. But sometimes I feel like if we're not forearmed, we're not forewarned, we're not able to protect ourselves, we're not able to watch for signs of real dangers in our life. And I've spoken on the show over the years about the demonic realm. Do I believe it exists? Yes. Do I believe that it's in everybody's home and everybody's dealing with demons? No. I think sometimes people just make bad decisions, and it has nothing to do with the demonic realm. It just is to do with the fact that we are human and we're fallible. But can we truly stand up to the demonic realm? With as fractured as we are as people and as self-ingratiating and kind of into our own selves, no matter how good a person you may be, let's face it, many of us are just focused on our needs at first and getting what we want out of the best of things. And sometimes that's at the labors and the pains of others. If we do face the demonic realm, are we prepared to take care of this ourselves? If we just crumble and fall and expect clergy to run in and shake their wand of magic water at our demons, will they really go away? What does it take? Well, we're going to talk with a guest tonight who has a unique perspective on this. Tracee Dunblazier is our guest. She's a spiritual empath, a shaman, educator, author, speaker. She's based in Los Angeles, California, and she has firsthand dealings and knowledge with dealing with the demonic. And Tracee, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
It's my pleasure to be here.
You know, I'm curious, one of the parts of your career is that you are also a grief counselor. Mm-hmm. And I know I've been going through grief, and my listeners have been processing this with me since November, and grief just keeps showing its ugly head in my life throughout this past year. And I wonder if in those moments when we're grieving, when we're weak and we're sad and we're in these kind of solitude points, does that weaken us to the dark side? Is that a time that's even the most easy for the demonic to influence us? I'm just curious what your take is on this, first as a grief counselor and as a shaman and somebody who walks in these realms.
Yes and no. So when you're grieving, literally your heart is expanding. Your heart is breaking and expanding. And if you keep your mind set on the loss, you do and can become open to other spiritual intrusion or attracting other people who are in grief or other things to continue to weight your grief to continue to express itself. However, in the process of grief, you actually are the most powerful you will ever be if you can get your mind right. And what that means is that when you're battling demons or any kind of spiritual intrusion, it's a choice. And it's a choice that you make not because you feel like making it or that you feel powerful enough to do it, but that you do it anyway. So grieving, I think of grief as the great integrator. It actually takes all of the fractured part. I love that you use the word fracture because that's such a visual word for really what we all are on a lot of levels. Those fractures become fused and integrated together when we cry, when we grieve. We literally erase neurons in our brain when we cry for 10 minutes or more. So we are actually eliminating that which caused the grief and creating for lack of a better word, a vacant space to be populated with new neurons that give you new ideas. So
wait a minute. Walk me through this again. This sounds like this sounds like black magic to me, Tracee. No, it sounds like something I need. And I think a lot of people do. A lot of us, we have, and I don't want to turn this whole thing into grieving at first, but I do think you just passed on a very important message. And listen, we get involved in grief and we let grief overwhelm us. And some of us, like myself, will fight the grief and letting it out. It comes out once in a while in little bursts, but then I strangle back the tears, I choke back the cries, and forward on, right? I mean, that's onward and upward. That's the way we have to go. But in the long run, am I doing myself mental and physical harm by not allowing myself or listeners out there going through the same battle? Are we doing ourselves a disservice by trying to be strong and not just purging these chemicals, these emotions, and the grief?
Yeah, you know what, Dave? I don't want to be a naysayer, but you kind of are. Here's the thing. For me, as an empath, I have grieved. I grieve a little bit every day, literally. And there are times when I've gone through things. I recommend that when the grief comes, that you embrace it and you embrace it and you indulge it. A lot of people have a fear that if the grief comes and they start to allow the expression of it, that they're gonna get lost in it. And the truth is, think of it as a 50-pound bag of rice. And every time you grieve, you pour some of that rice out and it's used up. It's eaten. It's processed. Pretty soon, you only have 50 pounds, so eventually that bag is going to be empty, right? And that's how I want you to think. It's not this endless process that once you indulge it, it won't stop. That's not true at all. The more you indulge it, the louder you get. If you scream and cry and throw pillows and whatever, the more you allow it, the more it uses up that energy. That is understand that there's a message in the grief. That's another way to think about it. It's that you're clearing away old energy and information to create a space for new energy. And after grief, the heart and the brain create certain chemicals that create endorphins that make you feel better, that make you feel good, that let you know you're not alone, that make you feel comfort. So there's a lot of chemicals that are created in your body after you've grieved that you don't get the benefit of if you don't allow it.
That's really an interesting aspect of being someone who personally has battled depression and anxiety throughout my entire life. I've adopted over the last few years, and I've mentioned it, that now when I feel the depression coming, where I used to stand and dig my heels in and lean into it and just fight it. And that would be what really wore me down. That's what really kicked my ass. Yes. I just imagine that scene from Forrest Gump when Lieutenant Dan's in that shrimp boat and he's just standing there and he's letting the storm pound him and he's screaming and he's letting it out and he's, the heels are dug into a degree, but in a sense, he's letting the storm do what it has to do. Right. And then afterwards, there was a cathartic part to it. And I've seen that in myself is now when it hits, what wore me out was trying to fight it. And that's what depressed the hell out of me more. And that's what made me feel even more broken and fractured. And now that I've started to just let it hit me and then, okay, I'm going to cry. Oh, it's going to be a good one. And I've started to let that in and I feel bad about this or that aspect of my life and then let it go. I've noticed that the darkness is not as deep or as hollow feeling as it's been in the past. So I guess part of it is learning to embrace the storm and let it pass through you to wash away the silt and the dirt of what's sticking to you.
Absolutely. And here's the thing. That's the thing that connects you to the demonic realms is the illusion that you're weak, the illusion of whatever fears you have, that what you're grieving. Grieving is the bridge from one perspective to another. And clearly, if we're leaving a perspective, it's because we no longer need it. It no longer serves us. Right? Right. And oftentimes the perspective that we have is one of a disempowered position. We are not powerful. Someone else is powerful, or they have power over us, or they can do this or that, or they control this or that, or it's them and us. Right. But when grief makes you recognize that not to get all light and love on you, but we all are one. We are all interconnected on some level. Whether or not you know it, whether or not you feel it, none of that matters. But there is an energetic connection that we have. Especially we notice it by those that we are around, our friends, family, and colleagues. The people in our neighborhood, we are attracted to different groups and we all resonate. There's a common denominator that connects us on some level, right? But we also have that globally. And the more you open up to that, the more you can connect with it and understand your part. Therefore, you are truly never alone. Because one of the things that you said in your intro in talking about, can we really fight a demon? Can we deal with spiritual intrusion? And we can. But we do it when we connect with the part of ourselves in others that gives us power.
All right. I can buy that. That makes complete and utter sense to me. I guess, the other thing is, too, when we're in these moments and we're feeling the most vulnerable and like something could attack, that's, I guess, giving power to that energy, that whether it's demons, the biblical theological version of what they are, or whether it's our own dark machinations of our mind, we're giving power to that as though it controls us instead of and I'm guessing what might be, and bear with me for a second here. Many of us that want signs from the other side, as you said, we're so cluttered with the garbage and the neurons of the past that it's basically when we go into grief mode, we shutter the windows, we shut the door, we, pull down the blinds. And if you don't purge and you don't throw open the blinds and let out the darkness that's inside and you don't get out of that, that's going to keep you from making connections. It's going to keep you from being able to feel connected to the other side and the loved ones that we've lost.
Right. Here's the thing, demonic energy. So let me just break this down as quickly and simply as I can. But there is actually a demonic realm. Mm-hmm. It's a particular vibration, and they're creepy and they're power hungry and they're greedy. Like they have a caste system, right? They work in like a militarized format, if you will, and they work on power and intimidation to get what they want. And it's a dimension of energy. Those beings, those energies have never incarnated. They were created, sometimes thousands or millions of years ago from when you talk about the demons in the Bible. Right. Those demons, some of them still actually exist, and they were created a long time ago. And the reason why they have power is because so many people have connected to the essence of what they are and fed them for thousands of years. Right. But most of us will never, ever, ever deal with that. That's a thing. And most people won't ever deal with it. What most people will deal with are other forms of energy or demonic energies. Greed, pride, lust,
sloth, right? The whole 7 sins, yes. 7 deadly sins. Sure.
But those are like the basic colors of the demonic energies, and you can deal with some form of that based on your relationship to it. Some people literally have a demon they may have created hundreds of years ago in another lifetime. And again, whether or not you believe in that doesn't really matter. If this is a scenario that is relevant to you, then there's only one way to deal with it. Right? So I want to preface that. People who have to deal with demons in this lifetime, they have to deal with them. So no amount of mind control and putting it out of your head and just thinking positive, none of those things help if you have demonic sight, if you can see them, if you can feel them, if you sense their presence around you, that means they are yours to deal with. And that at some point, they are probably an aspect of your own creation. I know that's freaky, right? But on some level, at some point,
Well, that's what I was curious about is the demonic realm, are demons truly an individual entity, or are most demons things that we've created with our fears, our anger? Is it parts of us that we feed more? You know, there's the famous story of the two dogs within you, you know,
Yes.
the good and the bad. Which one's going to win? Well, which one are you going to feed? Are you going to give into the dark side, or are you going to continue to feed the light and move on? That's the dog that's got, you know, that's going to win that battle.
Exactly. Well, so I want you to think of it this way. If you had a battle, if you created a demon, if you had a fear or a guilt or something devastating in a lifetime 1,000 years ago, and that energy formed outside of you as a spiritual entity, became an entity, and then it was fed for 1,000 years, what would it look like? Right? They become what we fear. They take on that form. They get the gnarly teeth and the big horns and the lizard tail. And, you know, when I heard I'd be speaking with you this evening, I had a memory came to me about an experience. I was doing a healing for somebody in New Orleans, and I had flown there. I do a lot of work there, but I had flown there and was to see the person. I got there, and then the next day I was to see the person. And that night, we went into New Orleans, had a lovely time, and I got home. And in the middle of the night, I found myself doing battle with this thing that kind of was like a cross between the Hunchback of Notre Dame and the hunchback kind of misshapen guy from the 300. And he was big and burly, but short and bald, and he had this big dog collar on. And literally, I woke up in the middle of the night with this thing on me. And I mean, I woke up in the process of battling him, and I started to get scared, and then I started to get angry, and then I remembered where I was and what I was doing and why I was there, and I went, oh, okay, no, and I remembered my power. But I had to go through that process, and this thing was not mine. It was, you know, it was part of the battle that I was going to be assisting with the following day.
See, but the difference is you remember your power. Many people, yes. And I don't mean this negatively, folks, but there's no way to say this nicely. Many people live under the guise of victimhood. They're victims of everything. They don't have power. They don't know how to get power. And I think that's what opens us up to much of the negativity that takes place in our lives. We keep yielding our power to something else, to someone else. And we're feeding the demon. We're giving that to, whether it's that pain in the ass coworker who's always, you know, driving you nuts, or the boss who's just a prick and you have to deal with them on a daily basis. If you're going to give the power to them, you're never going to be able to control the demons. You're never going to be able to. And how do people start to draw and get power again for themselves, even if they believe they've never had it to begin with?
Well, so that's think of it as when you are when the demonic world is apparent to you, that is your phase of development is to take authority over yourself and your life, your thoughts, your choices, your actions, and to take authority, because that's what demon battle teaches you, is that you are king. They are not in our world. They are invited here. So if you say they can't be here, they can't be here. Now, demons are cleverish, all get out. They will lie, cheat, steal, manipulate, cajole, seduce. They will do anything that they can, and they will get to your trigger or your Achilles heel. So you might be strong in all of these ways, but well, you did gain 5 pounds, didn't you? You know, there's going to be something, and they're going to go to the one thing that you don't have right yet. And know that that's what their power is. That's all their power is. So if you deal with that within yourself, they have no power. And it is
right. But is that the work of the demonic realm that's needling you for eating that extra burger or donut? Is that, or is it just our own self-loathing and our own brain that's working against us? How do you draw that defining line between the demonic realm and that which we do unto ourselves, which sometimes can be just as terrifying?
Right. And that's a really great question. So there's definitely a difference. I call it weighted emotion. So every person has whatever their issues are. And there's a definitive difference between you and your issues and how you feel about yourself, your own self. Let's break down self-loathing for a second. Self-loathing is your initial relationship to that which created you and your physical body. When you gain the awareness of your physical body, it's like a big lump of flesh, and it's disgusting, and you loathe it. But that loathing makes you recognize that it's there. And the more you enlighten yourself, right, the more you acknowledge your greatness, your power, your joy, your body, and how amazing it is to be able to heal itself and all the amazing things it does. It changes your perspective of your body. Therefore, it takes it out of the disgusting realm. So self-loathing is the way in which we acknowledge our power at its core. So there is that. And then there is the additional weight of a spiritual intrusion. And oftentimes, so sometimes not everybody experiences demons, but they can deal with discarnates, which are actual energies, spirits that have not been able to cross over because they are connected to this realm and traumatized here. They're stuck here, for lack of a better way to say it. There are imprints, which are imprints that we've come in with, like from past lifetimes, or if we've experienced certain traumas in life that have left an imprint of energy, a memory, that are triggered. All of those different things are layers. And the more layers we have, the more opportunity there is for other entities that are actually separate from us to attach to us. This is really important. If you get anything, and not you, but the general you, mm-hmm. If you get anything from our conversation tonight, it's that all of these things and the degree of the density that you hold them is the degree that you need to heal. You never get anything that you are not fully on all levels in that moment equipped to handle. You're equipped to deal with it. It is yours. When you can embrace that, like, okay, yeah, I feel despondent, I'm angry, I hate everybody, and you feel the weight of that. When you say, okay, what do you want? That's the first question to discern if it's a different layer of you and your spirit, or if it's an actual entity that is separate from you, is that you ask. The more you continue, like, demons will lie to you, but even in their lies, you hear the truth. The next phase of this is to learn to trust your intuition, trust your gut, trust your first thought that comes to you, right? People don't trust that they're being spiritually influenced because they don't want to deal with it. There are other realms of energies that they don't really know about, and it frightens them. So they don't deal with it. Therefore, they can't trust themselves. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. And it's that self-doubt that starts to cause, I would guess, weaknesses that make it easier for the dark realm to prey upon you. Exactly.
But so here's the thing. I love it that you said it that way, because one of the chapters in my book is, demons are really helpful until they're not anymore. Oftentimes, if a child is experiencing abuse or some sort of trauma, they will call out to whatever energy entity can help them in the moment. And oftentimes they will call upon demonic energies or other entities to help, But those entities do help. They protect them. They help them. They strengthen them. They give them the grit or the meanness or whatever it is that they need to overcome whatever obstacle is befalling them, up until they outgrow that. And then then that's when the conflict starts, because then they have to let go of that energy. Oftentimes, people who have demonic energies or other entities attached to them don't let go of them because they fear the grief process and the loss of no longer having them. Even if having them doesn't serve them, they're not alone.
Right. And think about this, folks. I know right now you're rolling your eyes thinking, why would I grieve a demon? But then I want all of you to take a harsh look at yourself and how many of you are in a situation you know you should not be in. You're right. With somebody, or you're at a job that's toxic. You're surrounded by people that are toxic, and you don't walk away. And why? Because the idea of starting over, the idea of being alone is terrifying to so many people. So it is a real possibility for people that do come into contact with the demonic realm that they do get a sense of power from them, even though sometimes it's scary. It's that feeling of not being alone. And
right.
You know, we do it in daily life every day, one way or another. So don't just poo-poo the idea. Now, as a healer, I want to hear about when you've been working with somebody and some of the most dangerous and dark times that you've had to face when you realize that what this person is dealing with is demonic. But remember, folks, the scariest stories are often the true ones. Amazon Prime exclusive Lore is coming tomorrow, Friday the 13th. It's a chilling 6-episode anthology series from an executive producer of The Walking Dead and an executive producer of The X-Files, based on the podcast phenomena that's got over 70 million downloads. Creator and narrator Aaron Mahnke explore the most terrifying tales throughout history. Each uniquely creepy episode takes a myth that's rooted in historic folklore and then twists it, exposing timeless terrors that still haunt us today. Real life can scare you to death. Tomorrow's debut episode, Echoes. Dr. Walter Freeman is the father of the ice pick lobotomy. He believes the 10-minute procedure will all but end the need for the mental hospital. He has the best of intentions, but winds up creating an entirely new kind of horror story. Watch it exclusively on Amazon Prime Video this October, starting tomorrow, Friday the 13th. Now, Tracee, as a healer, as a grief counselor, as somebody who sits down with people that are in trauma, in dire straits, one way or another, do you remember the first time you started to deal with somebody and the demonic realm, a demon reared its ugly head and you realized, oh crap, this isn't just an upset person. This person has a dark attachment.
Yeah. So the one that comes to mind, I don't know that it was my first, because as a child, I experienced a lot of demonic attack myself, as really young, like 2, 3, 4 years old. And then I also had lots of past life images and dreams and blah, blah, blah. So, but the one that comes to mind, and this was the funniest, it really was funny. It was much funnier after the fact.
Right.
During the fact, it was really intense. But a client of mine, she was also a colleague, but she started out to be a client. She also worked with people, and she had done a reading for a guy who was had some demonic intrusion. And he had come to her because he needed help. And she's like, thanks so much. I'm going to pass you on to Tracee. But she asked me, hey, would you mind if I came and sat in on the session? He doesn't mind, and I'd like to be there because I'd like to learn this. I said, okay, great. So he came, and we get into the session, and then my job was to call it out, to create a conversation with it. And the next thing I know, I had 2 couches. They were sitting at an angle, at a 90-degree angle to each other. And next thing I know, he sits on the floor in front of my couch and puts his hand on, I was sitting Indian style, and he put his head on my knee and starts crying. And all the while, the man was crying, but the thing, oh my God, it was like, the biggest lizard you could imagine. It was like an alligator, like a crocodile, like it was that. And it was huge. I remember just the energy of it being huge, and I could visually see it. So here's this man crying and asking for help. And then there's this thing saying all of these vile things to me in my head. And then I look over at my colleague who had come to sit in, and I look over and she is asleep. She is flat out asleep. She could not even deal with any of it. She was out cold. It was the funniest thing ever. It was a huge teaching to me because I did a healing. I was able to call in. Often you don't ever do these things by yourself. You're never by yourself. You are always interconnected, and there are always transformative beings. I work with Saint Michael and Kuan Yin and Jesus and the Buddha and whomever I feel is whatever ascended master is best going to serve the nature of what it is that I'm dealing with. And I always call them in, so I don't ever feel alone. Although that doesn't change the fear factor. As familiar as I am with things, I always feel a little anticipatory fear. But so I'm sitting here with this guy, and the goal was to make the separation of this thing from him. He had called on it years past and didn't really understand. He was calling on it because he thought it was stupid. He didn't believe they existed, and he wanted to prove that they didn't exist. So
wait, the best way to prove something doesn't exist is by calling it upon you? That was this guy's theory? Yeah,
well, it worked because then now he knows.
Yeah, I guess.
You're like, oh yeah, now you know. But so for me, the biggest lesson of that experience, where I was able to at least unburden him of that thing. All of us did that for him. But the interesting thing was the man that was devastating and crying, and then there was the manipulative energy that was within him that was trying to use his crying for me to open up in empathy to him so that he could get to me. And I thought to myself, because this is what people do when people if they witness someone who has a spiritual issue, any kind of spiritual intrusion, they get angry, they get frustrated, they get scared, and they become hateful, mean, or rejecting to the afflicted person. And that there's nothing more painful for that person than to be battling this and then battling you. And the thing that I learned in that moment was to always make the separation between the thing, the critter, and the man or the woman. The universal man. Every human being is vulnerable, and they are powerful at the same time. And no matter how they got to the position that they did with this thing attached to them, they're being afflicted, and it's not their fault. They're empowered in it, but it's not their fault. And if you can make people aren't evil. Energy.
I don't know about that.
Well, but thank you. Let's discuss this, because here's the thing. We don't have a lot of language to really adequately describe the true nature of things. And when I say that people aren't evil, I'm not saying that people aren't idiotic, moronic, dense, hateful, unmoving.
Why are you staring at me so intently while you're saying this? Are you trying to get a message across? Especially when you hit the word idiotic very hard at me, Tracee.
I did. I threw it and it went boom. So people are all of those things, but it is the nature of these realms, these spiritual realms, these demons who have literally been around for millions of years, something that we really cannot conceptualize as a human being. The density, what we consider to be evil is just dense and unmoving, and we just don't know what to do with it. That doesn't mean we can't do something with it. We just don't know. And we have a very limited frame of reference because we've not lived a long time. You know, all of us on the planet have incarnated several times. None of us are beginners for this time. This is a special time on the planet where, you know what, can I say shit is blowing up?
Yeah.
But here's the thing. It's also a very profound and sacred time. And today's the 11th, right? I loved the fact that we were doing the show on the 11th, on 10/11.
Well, we're recording it, right? It'll be brand new to everybody else on the 12th. But yeah, today is the 11th that we're together talking.
Yes. That's magical to me because 11/11 is the number 11 is about transformation. And it truly, all of this tumultuousness that people are witnessing others go through is happening because it's awakening groups of people. It's making them grieve and have empathy in ways that they haven't yet. And when that happens on a mass scale, it literally changes the nature of the planet and the other events that can and will take place. So all of these events that are taking place are causing grief that is actually going to eliminate the possibility for even larger things to happen.
So you're talking hurricanes, wildfires, earthquakes, tsunamis, all of this tragedies, the shootings, all of this is leading us up to make things better?
Yes.
So these are truly okay, hold on. What the hell was that noise? Do you have trucks blowing by you there?
You know what? It's about literally, it's like 3 blocks over, but the window's open.
Okay. All right. Well, I just got worried there. I know my listeners are going to hit me up because as you were talking, all of a sudden there was this sound that came over your microphone. So I don't want people.
You're all okay here.
Okay, good. No demonic realm. Right. So we've got, these are truly, labor pains. These are birthing pains to get us through. And once we're through that canal of misery and what's going on, you think that we're getting ready for kind of a new ascendance, a new birthing.
It is, but I think it's individual. It's individual. People are becoming more of what they are and where they're at.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I know. But here's the thing.
Assholes are going to be more of an asshole? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yes.
Oh, great.
But they're going to have a choice, and their assholism is going to reflect back on them, and they're going to be amongst other assholes, and eventually that's going to push them to the point at which they can make a choice to be here, to reincarnate, or to transform. No, but nobody wants to be miserable. Nobody wants to be miserable. Nobody wants to be powerless. You know, nobody wants to be hateful. Nobody wants to feel unloved.
Then why do you think we live in such a victim culture right now? Everybody's such, and I'm not slamming it. I know there are people that deservedly are in that position, but for God's sakes, everybody is a victim of some nonsense. And, well, Dave, just you saying that offends me. You know, I know I'll get emails about that tomorrow.
Absolutely.
It just, you know, everybody's so hypersensitive and oversensitive and overly worried. And we're so worried about hurting each other or saying something that might be considered offensive that we're making things that aren't offensive. I don't know. It's a convoluted situation our world is currently in.
It totally is. And I have so much to say on that particular topic, but I'll try to round it out by saying this. People, you can only be a victim once. And being a victim means you didn't see it coming. But once it's come and you've experienced it, then you literally, all you do, you spend a lot of time in healing. Healing is the process of backtracking and understanding the process of how you got there and how you met that thing. How that thing befell you, how you didn't see it. What were the signs? That's what grief does, is it gives you a deeper, more poignant understanding of what happened to you while you're grieving it. Now, lots of people have been kind of floating in their own fantasy world of who and what they think they are. Mm-hmm. And that's blown up for them. That's what's happening on the planet, is nobody can ignore the power that they have by their choices. And so all this mass empathy, we're like, ooh, gosh, don't say that. That hurts. Right? Well, if something is offending you, your job, that's a gift to you. Your job is to look at why that is. Because things, if you spot it, you got it. If you're feeling it, if it hurts you, then it's something powerful for you. And most likely you're connected to it or you're doing it. Like there is a place of power that you have in that. So, that's, this whole thing with people kneeling at the football games and expressing their, right to, protest. Like it's fascinating that people, doing that does not hurt or disrespect. It doesn't really disrespect the flag. It says, hey, pay attention to us because there's something amiss here. But I'm just using this as an example because that's hurtful for a lot of people. And so what's most important is they really need to look at what is hurtful. How you, maybe you eating that extra bag of fries is hurtful. Maybe you sitting on the couch one extra day instead of doing your work in the world, whether it's in the house, whether it's to get a house, whether it's in a relationship, whether, whatever your work is for that day, we all have something. Whether we're working for somebody else or for ourselves or we're in search of work or whatever our circumstance is, we have to get up and take care of our own first, meaning what can I do today to make my world better? And truly, in sincerity and humility, ask that. Not expecting someone else to give it to us or being angry because somebody has thwarted our needs or desires, right? But what can we do to empower ourselves, right? And right. The whole point of all of this is to learn to take responsibility for yourself and your actions. I have never, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I have never seen, and I've talked to several thousand people at this point, but I have never seen a client who came in and sincerely said, you know what, I need to change my circumstance. And I'm like, okay, well, this is where you start. Start with what you can do every day to make yourself feel better about yourself. What can you do that's a small task? Is it taking out the trash? Is it picking up some paper from outside of where you are? Anything is going to lead you to those things that you need. And the larger part of yourself, the creator, your higher self, knows what you need. And so it's giving you breadcrumbs to follow to get there. And that's truthful. Whether or not you know it, it's truthful for everyone.
Yep, sounds like a good place to start. We've got more coming your way. We'll face demons together right here with Tracee Dunblazier on the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness.
Beyond the Darkness.
Hey, welcome back to the show. The best in paranormal talk radio just keeps getting better. We're here 5 days a week with you now, Monday through Friday. You can tune in and listen to us as we discuss the strange and unusual world around us with some of the best experts around the world, literally around the world, whether we're talking aliens, battling demons, ghosts, Bigfoot, conspiracy theories, monsters, myths, or legends. This is the show you want to turn to. We are the only paranormal show on the Podcast One network, and rightfully so, because when you've got the best, why try the rest? This is Beyond the Darkness, and we need your help, my army of darkness. This is our Halloween for Hunger campaign. This is what we need from you. We have partnered up with the Tom Bernard Show and with Coast to Coast AM to try to shatter our goal. Last year, our goal was $5,000. This year, and we hit it with $13,000. We hit it, ran it over, and made it our bitch. Now we need to do it again this year. This year, our goal is $15,000, and I know we can get there. Second Harvest Heartland, Halloween for Hunger. Second Harvest Heartland will help feed our neighbors in our communities here in the United States, and that's important. important to a lot of us. We know that there's tragedy going on within our own boundaries, and we have our own neighbors, our fellow coworkers, our loved ones that are struggling to put food on the table. Second Harvest Heartland has buying power like no other. Check this out. If you donate $1, that's going to supply 3 meals to a person in need. That's right, $1. You can't even go get a hot dog from a gas station for $1, let alone feed one person 3 square meals for $1. That's why we partner with Second Harvest Heartland, because their buying power and the donations you make go to help people in the most powerful way ever. Last year, we helped almost 45,000 people get meals. Help us again this year. If we can hit this 15,000, that's 45,000 meals that we will supply. And I know we can do it. Here's what you do. Go to darknessradio.com. And it's best to do it on your laptop. Go to darknessradio.com and find the Second Harvest Heartland Halloween for Hunger banner. If you're going on your smartphone, for some reason the banner looks really weird, it's skinny, and you don't even notice the Second Harvest Heartland. But if you see a real skinny banner, just click it, and that should take you to the page. You make a donation. It could be a one-time donation, monthly donation, yearly donation, whatever you can afford. And again, there is no amount too small. $1 will help feed one person 3 meals in a day. So please go make that donation now. Help us shatter our goal. Tom Bernard Podcast Show stepped up. They made a $1,000 donation to get the ball rolling. We were already up almost to $1,000. Now we're over $2,000, and we've got a lot of time left, but we want to hit that $15,000 goal. Truthfully, I want to blow past that too, but we can do this together. We get over 300,000 downloads of our episodes every day. So if just one of you sends $1 in out of each of the 300,000, we will crush hunger and help feed families and people in need. So please consider going and making that donation and helping us out. Again, go to darknessradio.com, click on the banner for Second Harvest Heartland, the Halloween for Hunger campaign, and help us out with that. All right, our guest tonight is Tracee Dunblazier, and we're talking about demon. We're kind of bouncing all over talking about different things. And I know I brought you on the show to talk about dealing with the demonic realm. One of the first questions I brought up to you, Tracee, was, are we prepared? And it sounds like we're not really to deal with the demonic on our own. You said that usually you go in with other people that can help you with this. How many people that come to you believing that they're infected by the demonic truly are? Let's say out of 10 people that come to you to think, Tracee, I think I've got a demon. How many do you find really are dealing with a real demon, not our own insecurities and mental issues?
Well, I'm gonna go with 3 out of 10 for the win, Dave.
Let's go to the survey. Top 3 answers on the board. 3 is correct. Wow, 3 out of 10. So that's terrifying news, Tracee.
Well, yes and no. Here's the thing.
I like how when you're facing like the creepiest shit ever, you get this super high voice. Well, it sounds horrible, but it's not, Dave. No, it is, Tracee. If you've got 3 out of 10 people have demons, that's pretty bad, Tracee. Maybe you're just jaded to this job, but
well, do you know? See, I'm totally the one that all of my colleagues say, "Oh, here's her number." Right, yeah. Because they're not having any part of this. So
I'm gonna be sending people to you left and right. I poor Bill Bean. I've been hammering Bill Bean with people for the last 5 years because he's willing to help people dealing with dark forces. But I'm gonna start turning them on to you, Tracee, and you'll start getting the waves of emails and questions, because there are people out there in need right now that want help. Have you ever gotten in over your head where you went in and realized, oh, shit, and something dark came rolling through?
I don't believe in ever getting in over my head. I mean, and that's part of the reason why I can do what I do. Uh-huh. Because I can't be over my head. Here's the thing. I mean, not to say I've not been scared, because I've been scared a lot, but I've been being scared since I was like 2.
Right.
So I'm more comfortable with that feeling than I ever have been. But the more you understand the nature of your power, that creates this massive divide. Like literally, they can't fuck with me. Can I say that?
I guess you just did. I can't beep you now. Come on, it's a family show, Tracee. Jeez.
Oh, sorry. But here's the thing. I mean, honestly, that you have the power. Everybody has the power, and you have to. Part of the process of battle is the process of learning that, and then knowing that, and then standing in it. And they're all different levels of beingness. And definitely, I remember there was a time when I first got into working professionally, where me and a couple of my colleagues would like laugh about this stuff. I never really talked about it. It still was kind of latent in me because I didn't really have, at that time, I wasn't dealing directly with all of the experiences that I had had as a child. Mm-hmm. And as a child, what I did to get out of it was I prayed myself out of it. Like literally, I would use the Lord's Prayer, or I would talk my way out of it. Because really it is, when you tap into an energy's, another dimension, there has to be an energetic agreement. There has to be a common denominator. So if you're fearful, you'll attract something that is fearful or connected to fear. If you're angry, you'll connect to a demonic energy or another energy that's angry. If you're despondent, you'll connect to that. But whatever it is, there's an agreement. And that's what we mean agreement, is that there is something that resonates, that connects you. When you begin to understand that it actually is, and I'm using quotation marks here so you can see them, agreement, there, you have that. What that means is that it's not that it's your fault. It means that you have power. And no matter how big and scary the thing is, the minute you say, I'm not having you. The minute you stand to it, it has to back down. Because we are in this world, in the physical world. This is not their world. It's our world.
But we've heard a lot of these stories, though, Tracee, where when you start standing up to the demon and blustering and trying to take control, sometimes all hell literally breaks loose, and that's when they start kicking your ass. It's when you challenge them.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. The scenes that you've seen in the movies, mm-hmm. Emily Rose is by far the best movie that I've seen. Actually, that and The Fallen were the best movies. The Devil's Advocate was pretty good too, but all of them have things of truth in them. But you know what? That is literally for the 2%. Those people who deal with those demons it's karmic for them. And oftentimes, if it's going to be that intense, there's a greater purpose at hand.
So if you come to face me, you come to help me, and I've got a demon attached, and it's a bad one, and it's an angry one. Mm-hmm. What do you do? I mean, how can you get rid of it if it's attached to me?
Well, think of it like this. It's like I am unifying with you. I can't do it for you.
Right.
But I can unify with you and strengthen you to do it. If you give me permission, I can speak for you and I can be your voice. But if we do that and it stands down and then you leave and you're not really ready, you're not prepared to have it gone, it can come back. Like if you invite it back, it'll come back. Right? But here's the thing. So all of the destruction that a demonic energy can create mm-hmm. is in the illusionary world. And even in our physical world is an illusionary world. That's a whole other deep concept. Most people don't ever get to have that experience where they can, bend the spoon with their mind or whatever. But I want people to start here. Start with no. No is a whole sentence. No, learning to say no, learning to set boundaries most people will never deal with a demonic intrusion of the nature of what you see in the movies. That's rare.
Good. Say that again so our listeners hear that.
Very few people will ever deal with the nature of a demonic energy like the ones you see in the movie, Beelzebub, and the ones that come from the Bible, blah, blah, blah. Most people aren't going to deal with that. But you are going to deal with the one that tells you you're fat, ugly, unloved, stupid, whatever. Those are the ones you're going to deal with. The ones that tell you that you're never going to be anything and that, you could always do better and you could always do more and you're not ever enough.
But isn't that a case most times? I mean, as a counselor, sometimes it's our parents that set that ball in motion, or it's somebody we love and trust that makes us start feeling bad about ourselves, our spouse or our boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever. And they start that kind of deprogramming of our soul. That doesn't mean they're demonic in nature, but then when it starts populating in your head and you hear these things, is it truly the work of the demonic realm? I mean, seriously at that point, or is it just our own insecurities?
The demonic realm, like I said, most people won't ever deal with the demonic realm. The demonic realm can use your insecurities against you. Have you ever had an experience where somebody just says something to you and you're like, why did you say that to me? Out of all these people you could have said that to, why did you say that to me?
On a daily basis, yes.
Yes. Okay, so every person has their own energy. They have whatever's going on internally, and that actually creates a vibrational signature that other people experience. They may not know they're experiencing it, but they will respond to it. I call it the 50-50, which means like you and I are having this conversation, and you are provoking me to say certain things, and I am provoking you to say certain things so that we have this common goal of putting out whatever information is most poignant for all of the people listening, right? It's a group endeavor. We are all participating, right? And you and I, because we're the leaders of this, because we're the ones speaking and being heard, it's 50-50. We each give half of it, right? And that, if you can apply that concept to an argument that you have with your spouse or your friend or a colleague, right? And the more obnoxious they are is a reflection of how dense you are, right? The harsher somebody speaks to you is the more you are unwilling to hear them.
Well, that's where you should be. Do you know what I'm asking? I mean, when you're saying that they're talking to you like this, you should be dense to it. You should be blocking it. You should not be letting it penetrate. Is that what you're saying? No, I'm saying that if I'm speaking to you and I'm speaking like this, and I'm kind of speaking in a lower tone, it's because I expect that you're going to adjust to hear me. People who speak louder and louder and louder and talk to you like this, it's because they don't feel heard. And oftentimes it's because they're not being heard. They're not being understood. Right. And so people will reflect their lack of understanding by actually speaking louder. But that's what I mean. So it's not that you should, people think when they think about demonic energies, they think about protecting themselves. But the truth is, the more truthful you are, the more you open to whatever the truth is in this world, it eliminates the demonic energy's power in our world. They only have power in their world, in the world of spirit, in the world of thought, in the world of emotion, right? They can trigger you and get you to come to their side, right? And at the point at which you make a decision that is based on whatever emotion is being exacerbated, that's when they win. Or, if not the war, they definitely win the battle. The other thing I was thinking as I contemplated the show, the other thing that people need to know is, you know what? You have, if you are a person that is having any kind of mental, emotional, spiritual, demonic intrusion, whatever it is,
You have to decide you're going to win, that it's a battle and you're fighting it and you're going to win it. That's it. You're going to win. There is nothing else. Set up the matrix, set up the blueprint that there's no other possible outcome but for you to win. Because when you do that, that's one of the ways that you enlist the universe to send you the people, places, things, thoughts, ideas, television shows, commercials, magazines, radio shows. They're going to give you the information you need exactly when you need it. You enlist the molecules around you to rise up and offer to you what you need when you make a decision that, you know what? I might be suffering now, but you're not going to win me. You're not going to win this. You're not going to get my heart. You're not going to get my mind. And to a demonic energy. One time, oh my God, can I tell you this story?
Please.
Oh, holy mother. For about 10 years, I managed a set of 40 units, an apartment building. And this place was so loaded up with all kinds of energies. Oh my goodness, it was crazy. But there was this one guy who I had rented an apartment to, who I did not realize fully to the degree at which he was a crackhead. And he was full on. All of it was his self-medication because he was a deeply spiritual person, but he was deeply afflicted and he had this spirit on him. It was a demonic energy. And for weeks, I was feeling like he was coming to me in my dreams. I was sensing its presence. I knew that it was going to be mine. Like this was going to be for me to deal with. So this one day, I walk past this guy's house and he's sitting outside and all of a sudden this thing comes, he speaks to me, but the thing says, "Don't trip." And I looked at him and it was the thing talking and I was like, okay, I guess today's the day. I kept going. Next thing I know, about 45 minutes later, this dude is walking outside of my apartment. He is pacing and pacing and pacing. And my blood pressure went up. I was feeling the blood rushing. I was feeling the fear and the anticipation of the impending battle. And I was like, okay, Lord, Jesus, St. Michael, I know y'all are here, but is this time? Is this it? Are we going to do this? Let's do this. And so I walked outside and this guy at this point, the man was not there. It was the thing and it was pacing. And it was like it had a big tail and it was like smacking its tail. I mean, of course that wasn't really happening, but I could feel that happening. And I'm like, what? What do you want? And he looked at me and for that moment when we faced off, when you were talking about the laser eyes that you could feel beating into your forehead. So we're facing off with the laser eyes. Excuse me. And all of a sudden, I just felt my energy get bigger. I mean, I got bigger than him. And I looked at him and I said, you know what? You can't win because I'm not going to fight. That's what time this is. You can't have me. And the guy, all of a sudden, the thing left him and the guy, literally, he was about 6'2" and he kind of sank down, his shoulders sank down and he looked at me like, why am I standing here with you? Because I don't remember what just happened. And then he started crying. It was like there was all of this stuff. And then when the thing left, he was done. Like he didn't even have any recollection of what happened. And all of that, there was all of this angst and fear that was the buildup to it. But when I addressed it directly, and I set the pace of it. Like, you know what? You can't have this because I'm not going to fight you. You can't win. You can't win somebody who's there's nothing. You can't have it. And it just shifted. And like I said, the poor guy literally had no memory of it. I couldn't even be mad at him. It wasn't about him.
you face that, you see this, and wasn't something that you went out and set out to see, right? These things are coming at you. Don't they realize that you have the capability of battling and ridding people of this? I would think you would be like a scourge to demons. They'd see you coming, and instead of bolstering, they just kind of, hey, go back inside. Here comes Tracee, right? Until you're out of sight.
You know what? I am very popular in the underworld. But here's the thing. That's such a great question, because here's the deal. So many of these energies are sad and despondent, and they do not want to be here, and they don't want to continue as they are. Thank you so much, because that, I think, is the most important thing that personifies this time that we're living in on the planet, is there are all of these energies that are being brought up to the forefront to be present so that we can witness them, so that we can heal them. That energy did not want to be here. You know what? He gets to stomp around all day and be hateful. Like, that's not fun. And it's not even powerful, because he's not living in a world where he has power. And his power is fleeting. And oftentimes, and that's when you talked about getting to the healing portion of healing, like if somebody has a demon, we all attract to us whatever the nature of the energy is that is personal to us. The demons that we have are personal. They're meaningful to us specifically. You can't be attacked by somebody else's demon. If something is going on and you think it's that guy's fault over there, it's just not. It's yours. It's you. You are connected. You have power. It is personal to you. So, I have done 1,000 deliverances on people where you literally, when you talk to these energies and you get them to communicate, they don't want to be where they're at, and they really do want to be transformed into another energy. They want to be different. They don't want to be stuck in the nature of what they are. And that's how you eliminate a demon. And this is where it feels really, kind of airy-fairy, and people roll their eyes because it doesn't really make any sense unless you can really see it. But if you can think of, say, a starburst, like a star, and it blows up, and then it turns into all of these other little particles, and it essentially becomes goes back to the universe. Well, that's the same thing as one of these energies, is that you focus so much light on them that they disperse and change forms. And understand, again, hate and evil, the only power it has is because it's layered density. It's thickness of the nature of whatever it is. If it's greed or anger or rage or lust or whatever it is, it's just the density of the energy that feels immovable to a human being. It's not that it is immovable, right? When you look at your table or a door or a window, that would take a lot of force to move it. But in truth, it really is just energy, and it can transform into something else.
I get that. I guess maybe people have, we've just been brought up to believe, and so many people have conceived the idea of what a demon is, that we have to break that barrier down first. I mean, would you agree with that? That we have to get rid of the idea of the, cloven hoof and the pointy tail and the spiky head, horns, that's not truly what the demon is. And now you believe that those do exist, and you do believe that those are uncommon to come into, but you're also dealing with different levels of these creatures. And you think, almost like this Rolling Stones, it's sympathy for the devil. These things don't necessarily want to be what they're doing either.
Right. Here's the thing. If it's a demonic realm, like truly a demonic realm, they're pretty general. They are kind of have the cloven hoofs, and then they all different variations of that same thing, but they're all kind of grotesque. And that is a specific thing. But within that context, think of it as they're there, but when you tell them no, that they fall to the ground like dust. Right? It's there and then it's not.
But many of us are, see, where I guess it starts to get unnerving for me is that a lot of people, myself included, always have self-doubt. So again, it kind of comes back to that beginning statement of, can we really beat back the demons? Because if these things are already preying on us and playing against our weaknesses, you know, aren't we, it just seems like a vicious cycle to me that as we're thinking we're winning, it starts, are you really? Do you really think you have this power? And no matter how much you try, I mean, it's willpower, right? I mean, it's the same willpower that keeps us from getting off the couch when we know we should go for a walk and, I'll just eat one more donut. And we just yield to that all the time. You know, I mean, it just seems like to truly beat the demonic realm, we're just not suited for that as humanity.
Well, here's having been through all phases of it, I completely get it, and I do remember what it was like to be in the darkness, and you know, I know what that is. But understand that it comes in layers, and you deal with a layer at a time, and you ask for help. You know that when you are in the deepest, darkest time is when, excuse me, you ask for help. If you don't see anybody around you who can help, you call on an archangel, call on Gabriel, call on Raphael, you know.
The thing is, though, I think there are so many people that have been turned off by mainstream religion that, you know, they're already having a hard enough time believing in God, let alone archangels. And, you know, like I grew up Lutheran, that wasn't part of my gig. Calling upon the angels, you either call, you know, I mean, to me, it seems silly. I mean, if you are religious, it says there is no God before me. You just call upon him. Why? I don't have to call on Mary or Jesus. I just call on God, and God should take care of this, not Michael or Gabriel or Jose or Hoseby or whoever's going to join me today in my battle. You know, you've got so many people that have turned away from religion. What do they do in these kind of situations? We'll talk about that. I don't have the answers for all of these things, folks, but I do have some answers on ways to make your life better. Tracee, I know time is slipping away from us here. I want to get into some of these other aspects of demon work. How do we tell the difference between a true demonic entity and just a piss off ghost? I go to haunted locations all the time with people, and they'll get their hair pulled and, oh my God, it's a demon, or they'll feel a little shove and it's a demon. And I guess I've always been of the mindset, Tracee, that if it's a demon, it's not just going to pull your hair, it's going to drag you down a flight of stairs by your hair. It's not going to give you 3 cute little quaint scratches on your back. It's going to tear you open. If it's a real demon, why are people so nervous all the time about the paranormal and trying to differentiate between ghosts and dark realms?
Well, because it triggers that thing within you that is unknown. It's just if they knew how illusory the world was, they wouldn't be nearly as scared. But understand that any energy requires you to deal with a truth about yourself. Sometimes a secret. You know, maybe you've done some things and people don't know, or maybe you're hiding stuff about you or whatever. And that's the only leverage. A demon. So the demonic realm has a religious connotation because it is, of religious origin. That's the connection to it. That's, the Catholic, they've kind of stamped it. Any other religion on the planet, most of them don't call them demons. They all have, but they relate to them differently. They're like energies. They're aspects of the self in a sense. So the Catholics are really, the Bible is really, or the First Testament. So wherever the First Testament exists are really the only place that they call them actual demons and have this specific connotation to it. And people who have had past life energies with religion, religion is a relationship to learning about your relationship with the Creator. It is not your relationship with the Creator, right? And so you had mentioned, and this is really important because when you deal with this, when you call on the universe for support, It's not about religion and it's not about the church. It is not about those two things. Those two things, in their highest intent, are intended to offer us an opportunity to have a consistency of worship, to create a relationship with our higher self or the creator, whatever you want to call it. But it is not the relationship itself. When we align with, well, I'll say Saint Michael. Saint Michael is the archangel. He's the demon slayer in 4 different religions. So when you align, then Chang Koi is the same kind of entity in the Chinese pantheon. So every religion has a demon slayer. So when you connect with the demon slayer, you are connecting with that part of yourself. Oftentimes I have people who, I'll have a client that I've only seen a couple of times, and I even have clients who I don't know yet, literally, I've not met them, but I'll cross their path and they'll say, oh my God, you were in my dream. Or I was walking down this dark hall and then there you were walking with me and blah, blah, blah. They see me, however they see me is them acknowledging that part of themselves that I represent. So anytime you're calling on another energy, it's that you are calling on that aspect of yourself to become empowered. Right? And that's this is not about the church, and it's not even about religion. It is literally about you calling on the part of yourself that can come in and strengthen and support you and help you to eliminate the part of you that feels disempowered and victimized.
Can we truly be possessed by demons? And there's a difference between being possessed and owned by a demon. And
yes.
By owned, I mean, is when they're kind of pushing you around, the oppression aspect of it, and making you feel like they have more control than they truthfully do. But can we truly be possessed? I mean, I would think we have a natural balance of security and protection around us to begin with. Why would people even invite these things in to start with?
So I've had a few experiences with doing deliverances on people who possession is really rare. Like the few experiences, like Emily Rose, we saw that in the movie Emily Rose. It's really a great movie, and I really like how they did it. But she was possessed. But it was also, they made it very clear at the end that was a part of her karma. Like that was her choice. Her whole purpose of coming to the planet was to allow others through her experience to witness what that was. So that is not most people's karma. That's not, that's not what most people will experience at all. Most of the time, demonic energies will influence. They can not take full possession, but they can influence, or they can pass through. I've seen a lot of times. This one time, oh my God! Yet again, it was a referral to me. This guy had called on a demon and didn't really know that that's what he was doing, but he didn't really believe in it until he experienced it. And he's sitting across from me, and all of a sudden he's like, yeah, well, you know what? He's really mad. He's really mad. And you know what? He wants to murder you. And oh my God, I can't even explain how thick the air was in the room that day. Like it was so deep, and I could feel again the blood racing through my body. And he's saying all of these really heinous things. And that's the time that you don't get to be offended. I can't get upset and cry and be offended. Oh, you're hurting my feelings. I can't do that. Right? So I'm sitting here and he's saying these vulgar, that when you talk about what most demons are going to be vulgar, they're going to say religious things. They're going to try to offend you by offending or saying bad things about your God or your mother or whatever your trigger is. They're going to attack that. But again, most demonic energies will reference religion in some way. Okay. Anyway, so this dude is just saying, he's basically telling me how angry that this energy, this critter that's on him, how mad it is, and how he feels like he could just kill me. And I had this big shelving unit, and he just wanted to take that and crash it down on me. And I said, well, you know what? I am certain that he does, but that is not going to happen. And because I didn't get, like, I didn't get moved by it. It wasn't, luckily it wasn't, I'd heard enough of that in my years where it really becomes funny at my stage of the game. It's some of these things that they say are just hilarious, but he was saying really vile things, and I just responded to him with, like, no, that's not going to happen. And we're here for a reason, and I'm going to win here. That's the deal. If this is a battle, I'm winning. And eventually the thing left him. It didn't leave him for good, and I knew that because the guy was not going to allow that. He needed that relationship for whatever reason, and nothing I could say or do was going to talk him out of that. But I think that he needed to have the experience of, for a moment, being separate from it. And that's really important as well, because, don't underestimate what another human being needs for their growth. Right? We all spend a lot of time pointing the finger at what people do and what they say and, what they need, where they're at, how awful they are, how hateful they are, how, mean or angry or whatever. But everybody is exactly where they're at for their highest growth and their most efficient growth, and you as we all of us have healing properties. All of us have the ability to help others heal, and all of us participate. Like whomever you are around, you are in their psychodrama of life.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, you do.
And psycho and drama do go hand in hand, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And so that's in truth, it's a sacred responsibility, and you have a role, and you truly at some point get to decide, how empowered you want to be in it. And my rule when I work with people, and the only way that I can do the work that I do is that if you come to me, it's my rules and it's my house. You've entered into my house. And so there is no losing against the devil. Nothing will come to me that cannot be overcome.
Have you ever come upon the same demon that you've helped eradicate from one person only to find out that they've taken root elsewhere?
That's a great question. And it's no, yes, but it's been my own. I had something follow me. It came into this lifetime with me, and it hopped from person to person to person, for lack of a better way to say it. And finally, I met in life the person who originally was responsible for it. And the minute I met him and kind of gave him my karmic due, like we had to come to an agreement on some things. And the minute we came to that agreement, he took it back, and I've never seen it again. But I didn't know in the early days, I didn't know that it was the same one showing itself in all these people, places, and things around me.
So it was really attached to you, but it was showing through them to affect you the most.
Exactly.
Huh.
Exactly.
Now, if people have a need, Tracee, if they're fearful, they're dealing with something and they feel they're in over their heads, how can they reach out to you? What can they do to get help?
You can go to TraceeDunblazier.com is my website.
We'll have a link up to that as well for the show. So if you just find it, you'll find the link for that.
Yep. And BeASlayer.com is my book site. I've written a book, Dave, exactly on these things. The first one is called Master Your Inner World, Embrace Your Power with Joy. And it really breaks down what these things are. I also, I really recommend that people create their own form of in-home worship. And by worship, I mean connecting into their divine self. I give a little altar that you can create, a little ritual that you can create to connect to yourself. And I give homework. There's tutorials. There's also each chapter has a parable. It tells you a story of one of my spirit guides. Everybody has a spirit guide. Everybody has spiritual beings that are with them and there to be of service to them. Whether or not they believe in it, whether or not they know them, doesn't matter. They have positive, benevolent beings that are there to really serve them and help them. So that's what I talk about in Master Your Inner World. And then a lot of people are actually afflicted, and this is probably more popular and potent to the general public, is people who have past life imprints and spiritual imprints that clutter their mind and their ability to move through them. And so I talk about that in Heal Your Soul History. Right now, we're dealing with a lot of cultural issues. You know, a lot of cultures in our country haven't been grieved for what happened to them in our country. You know, that we can talk about it globally because there's that too. But the people on a cultural scale are also dealing with the same grievances and grief for hundreds of years of abuse, right? Like a beaten housewife has to deal with that from one person in their lifetime, or maybe two or three or four. But then there are entire cultures of people who are dealing with the trauma of the past grief of their ancestors, right? And so this exists on a lot of different levels, and I talk about that in Heal Your Soul History. And so having those two in you can.
See, I think that's why so many people throw their hands up in the air about metaphysics. It just sounds like such bullshit. I didn't ask for this. Why am I getting the sins of my relatives stuck on my karmic sweater, right? I just want to put on a nice sweater and not have all the little knit balls hanging off it from everybody that came before me wearing it and passing it along the line. And I think truthfully, and I don't mean to be disrespectful in that sense, but Tracee, I think that's why people have so much trouble with the metaphysical, is it's just like nobody believes I chose to be possessed. I chose to be raped. I chose to have my father put his cigar out on my arm. We just can't wrap our head around the fact that we made these choices before we came here, or that we have to pay the price for crap we didn't even do, that it's just part of our family lineage.
Yes, but here's the thing. It's not understand that a victim is a victim and it's always the perpetrator's fault. Mm-hmm. But just because something happened to you doesn't mean you don't have power in it. It's not your fault, but it doesn't mean you're powerless.
Right.
And that's the point, is that whatever your circumstance, I don't care if you don't believe. But if you have the devil right there for you, and he's there for you, and you know him and you see him and you feel him and you don't want to fucking believe him, but he's there, you know what? You got to deal with it. And I'm sorry that you have to deal with it, but you know what? He's there and he's yours. Right. And that's, so some people
are shaking their fists. No, I don't want it. Take it away.
Right. And I get it. But there's only one way, is to walk through that door and walk through it and overcome it. There is only one way. You don't get to overlook it. You can't go around it. You can't go under it. You can't go over it. You have to walk through it and change it. And it will change. And you are endowed with the power. Right?
I've got the power. Yeah, I got it.
You got the power.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just so frustrating. But that's why I said I listen to so many people that believe that they have these afflictions, but then don't want to believe that, they become victims of the affliction itself, and they believe that there's no way to rid it and somebody else has to do it. And, I just want people to take their power back and stop being victims. And okay, maybe you made a soul contract. I believe that you can change that soul contract.
You can.
Obviously you can, because you do things like soul retrieval, where you go back and you help put people's fractured souls back together and yes, get those pieces back that we've given to others in moments of crisis in an emotional or sexual sense and from our past lives as well. You can take the power back, folks. And you don't have to face a world of darkness. You don't have to face a world of demons anymore. You can, like we started the conversation talking about dealing with depression. If you steady yourself against the wall, the tsunami that's coming against you, it's just going to beat the living hell out of you. But if you learn to just dive in, you're going to get through it a lot easier and realize that, it's coming. I can't avoid it. Let's get through this. And then, once we're clear on the other side, whew, God, it feels so good to be past that. And who doesn't go through those feelings, whatever we're dreading. And 99% of the time, I got to believe our dread is much worse than what actually happened.
Yes. Well, yeah. Well, see, here's the thing. When we carry things over from life to life, it's because we were unable to grieve it in that lifetime. I wanted to say this, and I'm thankful that you're bringing this up, because you were talking about going through a little bit of grief every day, and you're like, oh, here it comes, here it comes. Here's the thing. Right now on the planet, so we'll take the Vegas tragedy. All of the people that were there and witness to that, most of them they went into shock. They probably didn't grieve. They're not going to grieve. They may not grieve for quite some time. But there are many people in the country and on the planet who, as a witness, when we see that on the TV, we grieve for them. We cry for them. We cry their tears because they are unable to at that time. Many people are taking on mass empathy. It's a way in which we are able to process out some of the things that are being brought up by this tragedy. It's not just the nature of the tragedy that's happening in this time frame. It's the interconnectedness of all of the other tragedy or pain that all of those people are carrying.
Gotcha.
Right? It's an efficient way to transform energy. And I want people to understand that is a spiritual understanding of the devastation of, those people are in their experience, and that's devastating for them. And I'm not on no level even.
Should we be open to doing that though? Because I often wonder, people are walking around in such a dazed state. Is it because they're taking on these emotions, this empathic nature of other people's tragedy, and they're just letting it lay on them like a heavy, wet blanket?
Well, here's the thing. When you resist it, it lays on you like a heavy, wet blanket. But if you allow it to move through you, not only are you doing a service for them, but you're doing a service for yourself, because you create this whole other altered, acute awareness. You know things about yourself. You know things about others. You know what you need to do. You are empowered to do it. You become very powerful when you allow that energy to cleanse you. That's really what it is. It's like scouring your brain and your heart and creating a space for the empowered energy to move through you. So if you are a person who you feel weepy and you cry a lot, or you want to cry a lot and you don't understand because you don't have anything to be crying about in your life, understand that you might be the one that is meant to be a transpersonal empath. You are empathing the emotion of groups of people who are unable to do it for themselves at this time. And that you're doing a service for them, but it's also doing a service for you. It's helpful, and it will keep you healthy.
Well, right. But don't you also, oh God, I don't know, I'm going to piss off a lot of people, and I know we're going over time here, but there are so many people out there, Tracee, to me, that just, they want to cry for everybody, and they're miserable for everybody else's problems. And to me, sometimes it feels like some people just love to live in a state of misery. Don't we also have to take the time to grieve for that and then live our lives again, instead of grieving daily for everything that's out of our control and everything that happens to everybody else in the world?
Well, from my personal experience, Dave, I spent the majority of my life as a transpersonal empath, where I literally grieved for everybody all the time.
Right.
And literally, it's been so fascinating, because the last I'd say five years for me, not a bit. Not that I did my share, and it really is. It's not that I don't.
Right.
You know, it's not that I don't have compassion, but that's not where I need to be right now. That's not my job. And it really is a job. And the best thing that you can do for people when they are doing that job is to not make fun of them, not be angry at them, but also don't get suckered into any illusion of manipulation because of it.
Right. That's what I think most people fall prey to. And that's why they start rolling their eyes and pushing people away, is because it's just like some people just want to be unhappy all the time.
Right. You're like, I'm so hurt. Can you give me another pizza?
Right.
No, I can't.
Damn it. That won't work on you. I'll have to remember that for the future. Tracee, thank you so much for joining us and sharing some insight. We appreciate it this evening, and I'm sure we'll be calling back on you again in the future.
I'll look forward to it. It's been a real pleasure, Dave.
All right. Remember, guys, tomorrow, Friday the 13th, you got to check out Amazon Prime and check out Lore. It begins tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in and being a part of our world. Be safe. Give yourself a chance to heal. Give yourself permission to feel, and also give yourself permission to move on in your life and keep those demons off your back and out of your heart and out of your mind. All right. We'll be back with you tomorrow right here on the best in paranormal talk radio. This has been Beyond the Darkness.